Hello, my loves, and welcome to this week's episode of I Think I Need Therapy. I actually just finished my own therapy session with my counselor just a few hours ago, and we talked about some really good stuff. She always gives me the best insight and the best, I kind of just just spill all this stuff out to her, and then I look at her, and then she responds and gives me really good analogies all the time, and just describes perfectly, puts perfectly into description what I am feeling and what I'm going through, and then kind of puts it into a different perspective for me. And I really appreciate it, and I think it's really cool the way she's doing it. And it's so nice just to obviously I tell my friends a lot of things about what I'm going through, and I'm journaling and have this podcast to talk about a lot of things that I am going through, but having someone like her, having a professional to just tell these things to, and then she can specifically be describe it, really validate me on what it is that I'm feeling, and also help me to become just so aware of everything that encompasses it, and everything that I'm going through, or even things that I don't even realize that I'm going through. She helps me to become aware of and really realize. So I think it's super helpful, especially because awareness is the very first step in every method you'll find. Awareness is the very first step to healing and recovering or whatever. It's always just the very first step. So sometimes I struggle with that, though, is I feel I am very aware of a lot of things going on in my brain and my life, and I'm just so aware, hyper awareness, and then I just don't know what to do with that awareness. And I did struggle with that for a pretty long time, but then I realized over time, that I started with the awareness, but then over time, things just naturally work themselves out because I was aware of it, and just naturally worked itself out because I first acknowledged it and was aware of it, and then was constantly aware of it, and naturally it just went away. I don't know if that is a very good explanation, but I think you get the gist there. But yeah, no, I'm so grateful for her. And one of the things that we were talking about, and I think I mentioned this before in a previous episode, is just how I'm just afraid of feeling uncomfortable feelings. And it's so interesting that I am, because I like to think of myself as this I've been in therapy for so many years, and I've done so much self-work and self-improvement stuff, and I mean, we're always going to be, we're constantly changing and everything, but I always think that I know how to handle my emotions, and I'm okay with feeling things, and I'll be able to feel things and work through things. But she's reminding me that I still am not okay with feeling a lot of certain emotions. And we were even talking about how there's certain emotions or certain just feelings that I get into, and I think everyone does, where you just you don't know what it is. It's not you can say, yeah, I'm so frustrated, or yeah, I'm really annoyed, or really angry, or just feeling really sad or down. Sometimes I just feel off, or just weird, or just different, and it's just not a regular mood or a regular feeling, or it's not really pleasant. It's just something that's uncomfortable, and I just don't know how to label it. And because I don't know how to label it, that's so uncomfortable. When you can label your emotions, it makes it so much easier to kind of figure them out, let them dissolve, or actually just allow yourself to feel them. But when you don't know what it is, you can't label it or put a name to it, it's kind of a lot more uncomfortable, and I feel it's harder to let that pass by or go away. So sometimes I distract myself and put on different emotions that I can label instead, and not actually feel that weird, odd feeling that I was feeling. So for example, I was telling her how sometimes go on my phone and like start scrolling, and I feel like I'm searching for something, but I don't know what I'm searching for, and I'm like looking to feel a sort of way, or like looking to get validation or like something. Like, I don't even know why I'm going on my phone or scrolling. Like, I'm not looking for anything, but it feels like, not looking for anything specific, but it feels like I'm trying to, bring some certain emotions up. Or I don't know, just searching for something. And she was like, well, we identified that before I go do that, I normally am in an off kind of weird mood that I can't really identify, and I'm just feeling really off or just starting to feel uncomfortable feelings. And so then I'll start going on my phone and I'll start scrolling or looking for different things, and I'm kind of lost on my phone. And that always brings up a lot of shame for me. So I replace those uncomfortable feelings that I can't label and I don't really want to feel with the shame, because I'm used to shame, I'm used to guilt. I can label that. I can understand that because I'm used to it, rather than having to go through those uncomfortable feelings that I don't know. That's kind of what we were talking about a little bit, and it made so much sense to me. I was like, okay, maybe there is a lot of feelings that I'm not allowing myself to feel. Maybe there is a lot of things that I'm very uncomfortable feeling. And the thing is, like, that's okay. It's honestly so okay, because sometimes we're not ready to feel those things. Sometimes we're just not in the right space to feel those things. But like I said, the awareness first and foremost is so important, because then once I'm aware of it, once I'm aware of the fact that I'm uncomfortable with those feelings and I can't label those feelings, then over time, maybe I will become ready to really feel those and really embrace them or investigate them in a way. So by starting with this awareness of these uncomfortable feelings and the fact that I don't want to feel them and I'm afraid of feeling them, I can maybe later in the future, or just whenever I'm ready, start to feel those feelings and, accept them and not really run away from them and avoid them so much. Because sometimes they have been building up a lot and I've been feeling them so much lately, and I'm trying to like run away from them and block them out with all these different things that I'm doing, or scrolling on my phone, or distracting myself in some way from these emotions. And it's so weird to me because I'm so used to being this person who can feel their feelings and has coping mechanism and has worked through a lot of different things, but there's still emotions and there's still feelings that I'm struggling with feeling, and that's okay. It's okay. We also talked about how there's a lot of things that I'm staying in this, my comfort zone with certain things, and I'm staying with where my life is easy in a certain way. I'm staying in this comfortable zone because I'm so afraid. Well, not afraid, because I don't want to do the work. Like right now, even though what I'm doing isn't healthy, and I know it is, I'm still staying in it because I don't want to go through the work. I don't want to put in the work. I don't want to feel that uncomfortableness. I don't want to, challenge myself or put in all that energy to work on myself and get past all these things that I'm doing because I'm comfortable. It's easy. I'm in this zone where I don't really need to put in much work or much effort. Even if it's negative, I'm aware that it's negative, but I don't want to change it because that's just a lot more work. And what I'm talking about specifically is in terms of guys' relationships, where there's a lot of stuff that I don't want to, that I don't want to let go of, because that means I need to work on myself, and I need to work on my attachment styles, and I need to work on the way I communicate. I need to work on myself and how secure I am within myself, and put all this work back into myself and improving myself. And I think that, to me, I've done so much work of that in the past that now I'm just like, it drained me at one point where it's like I don't want to put more work into myself. Like, sure, I am little bits every single day. I have certain habits that, like, yes, I do work on myself, but like this just seems like a huge thing that I need to face and I need to challenge myself with, and I'm just like, I don't know if I want to do that. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of energy. Do I want to do that? I don't know. But I'm preventing myself from, having better. I'm limiting myself and holding myself back from having better because I'm staying in this negative place where I'm just stuck, where it's negative and it's not benefiting me and it's not fulfilling me and it's making me stressed and it's making me anxious and it's, hurting my self-esteem even more and doing more damage. But it's what I'm used to, and it's what's easier right now, even though it hurts. But once I finally I'm just like, no, I need to let go, and I just put in that little bit of work and more work onto myself and figuring things out and setting my boundaries more and communicating more properly and sticking to myself and knowing my worth and being comfortable within myself and being comfortable being alone. That's another thing that we talked about, is how I am also afraid of being alone. And because I'm so afraid of being alone, I'm accepting so much less. And I'm accepting and clinging on to and holding on to these things that are negative for me. These people who are not good for me, but they're there. And she explained it like they're a safety net. And I don't want to let go of that safety net, because then I'm just left alone on this tightrope where, I have to be brave. I have to be strong. I have to, put in the work. And it's so much more challenging than having that safety net below me, because, she did the analogy of like, I'm walking on tightrope. When you have that safety net below you, like, you don't really have to be so brave. Like, you can just like go through the motions. And if you fall into that safety net. But once that is gone, it's so much scarier. It's so much scarier, and you have to be more focused and all this stuff and be more brave. And that's kind of what it's like, where I'm holding on to these things because it's like a safety net for me, and I'm so afraid of being alone and not having anybody to fall back onto. And this is where I kind of want to go into today, is different attachment styles, because I think it's such an interesting topic, and I think I kind of have a little bit of an anxious attachment style. I feel like that's something that is talked a lot about on social media right now. It's like the different attachment styles. I don't know, maybe I'm just on relationship TikTok and Instagram too much and it shows me that. But like, I constantly find things of people talking about how they have like an anxious attachment style or an avoidant attachment style and stuff like that. And I find it really interesting, obviously, because I'm in psychology and I love psychology, but it is also something that's very important. And I think knowing your attachment styles and knowing your love languages is super important for relationships, to having healthy relationships, because you know what you want and you need. So there's actually 4 main types of attachment styles. Obviously, your anxious one, avoidant, and then there's disorganized and secure. So the anxious attachment style is when you have a very strong fear of abandonment and being rejected. So you kind of cling on to people and you kind of cling on to relationships. These are the type of people who are like more needy, more insecure within themselves, and they have a strong fear of people leaving them, so they just try and do everything they can to cling on to people and keep people around. Then the avoidant attachment style is when you really fear getting close to people. It's kind of the exact opposite, when you are so afraid of getting close to people and getting close with others, so you become emotionally distant and you become very independent and on your own, and you don't really form many relationships because you're afraid of that intimacy in a way. Then the disorganized is when you find intimacy and trust really difficult, but then you really want to be close with someone, but you also really fear getting close to someone. So you want it, but then you really fear it, and you find it so difficult for you. Then secure is the healthy one, where you can be empathetic, but also set really clear boundaries and stick to those. and you are very secure and confident within yourself and your relationships. So secure is the one that you want to be in. The other ones can become very unhealthy and toxic, but also can be worked through, I think. But another thing is, like, you don't have to identify with any of them. You know, you can be parts of some, you can be parts of each, you can be none, you can be one specifically. It's not something that you need to really like label or categorize yourself into. For me, looking at this, I literally think that I am anxious and disorganized. I've always kind of like assumed that I was a little bit in the anxious attachment style because, like I was saying, I have that safety net and I won't let go of people, and I kind of cling on to those relationships because I'm just afraid of not having anyone. So kind of that fear of abandonment in a sense, because I'm afraid of being alone and not having anyone to fall back onto. So I kind of cling to people. What I also like, but I also am like super afraid of getting really close with someone because I'm afraid of being hurt. So then that's where the disorganized comes in, where I'm like, I really want that intimacy, that trust, and I want to be close with someone. But then again, being vulnerable with someone, being intimate with someone, and trusting someone can be super scary because you're literally like putting all of you into someone. You're giving someone literally all of you and sharing your like very personal things and all of you with them. And I mean, you can't really control what anyone else does, so it's kind of scary because then they can end up like hurting you. It sucks, I know, like you're gonna share yourself with people, you're gonna be vulnerable with people, and I mean, you also never know. You can't predict the future. You can never predict the future or who someone will become or who someone truly is. You don't know that in the start. You're just trying to get to know someone and figure them out. And maybe sometimes you also like express yourself to them because you trust them and they seem like a very trusting person, or you just want someone to trust and they're there. And so you give it all to them. And then later you'll find out who they truly are and how they handle that stuff. And, you know, they'll show their true colors and everything. But you can't beat yourself up for not knowing in the start. This is something I've been working on so much to accept, is the fact that I can't predict the future. When I started different relationships, I didn't know how they were going to end. I couldn't predict or know that they were going to turn out that way. Yeah, maybe you see a few red flags. Maybe there's things that are there that are like, you know, you should be cautious of, but also you can't predict the future. You can't fully know a person until you spend time with them and really try and get to know them. And, you know, maybe share a few personal things with them. That's how you become closer with someone. I think it's hard because getting close with people is hard because you have to share things, but then, like I said, you don't know who they are fully. You don't know what they're going to do with that information. You don't know how they're going to treat you. You don't know, like, yeah, they might be nice, but also they might go behind your back, or they might just fully go out and break your heart somehow. And like I was saying, I just want you to know that, like, you don't blame yourself for not knowing that that's going to happen. Don't blame yourself for not predicting it before it happened. Because I keep doing that to myself. I keep blaming myself, and I'm like, why didn't I expect this? I literally saw red flags, but I kept going through with things, even though I saw red flags, and I should have known, I should have, all these shoulds. I didn't know. And I should have done this, should have done that, whatever. I didn't, though. I didn't. And I can't go back in time and change things or tell myself certain things. I had to learn through all of that. I had to like learn my lessons, and I had to figure things out and go through it to know. I wasn't going to know right off the bat. I had to go through it to know. So there's my little motivational talk for this episode. The motivation came out. My motivational speaker voice just came out there. But honestly though, I think that's where that disorganized attachment style comes in for me, and I can see where it can come in for a lot of other people. But what I want to say with all of this is that if you're not fully in that secure space, there is things that you can do to like get to that secure space, because I think it's really important to have healthy relationships. And when I tell you, relationships, as much as I do talk about it on my podcast and I do talk about it to my friends and whatever, it's something that I am still very uncomfortable talking about and kind of accepting within myself. And I think I've touched on this before, but I have this thing where I think relationships are bad. I don't know, man. Like, not bad, but it's just like, I think I'm just so afraid of feeling those feelings and getting hurt. And I'm also just afraid of like, it's like I think it's a waste of time, or I'm not independent enough, or not secure enough within myself, or I don't love myself enough, and that's why I'm seeking relationships or seeking romance and all this. But the thing is, that's so black and white of me to think. It's healthy and it's human and it's natural to want relationships, to desire connection. That's literally a human need. That's a basic human need, to have connections. But sometimes I'm like, go to this whole black and white thinking where I'm like, well, if I desire relationships, if I desire this connection and this intimacy, then that means that's so unhealthy of me, and my brain is so focused on just that. Because I think also, because I'm in this anxious attachment style, my brain kind of like fogs with a person when I start to kind of like someone or get into something. My thoughts are so consumed with it. And I was actually listening to another podcast this morning about anxious attachment styles, and this is where I got this inspiration from, plus the therapy session. But in that podcast, her name is Anna Archer. Love her. She is kind of my inspiration, what my podcast is like, the style of it is based off of. But she was saying how like sometimes we think that we're like, no, she was saying how she was reading this book and this lady was very like driven. She was so successful, very independent, just like that boss bitch lady, like someone you look up to, and she has like all her shit together, running her businesses, has everything figured out in her life. But then when it comes to relationships, that lady would, her thoughts would just be consumed with the relationships because she had this anxiousness around them. And she was like, what the heck? Like you think that you're such a driven person, you think that you're so independent, but then once you get put in those situations where it comes to relationships, like it can be totally different. And I think I relate to that a lot, whereas, I put my all into everything. I put myself into everything that I do, and I am a pretty driven person, and I work really hard on everything, and I feel like I have my shit together in a lot of different areas. But when it comes to relationships, like that's why I get so confused, because I'm like, that is not me. Like, I'm not secure. Whereas every other area of my life, basically, not fully, but most other areas of my life are very secure. But then when it comes to that, I'm like, why is that not secure? Like, why is that not fully healthy? Because that doesn't align with me fully. But it's how it is. It's a different area of my life, and it's going to be different. And so with that anxiousness and with this like different, not unsecureness, like sometimes when I get like a new person or a new crush, they consume my thoughts all the time, and I'll be trying to do my work, and all I can think about is them, and then I have to go stalk their Instagram just to see them, and then think about them more, and then think about the future, and all this living in the future, and this thought world, and then start overthinking everything, and then blah 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 blah. And then also this anxiousness with like, sent them a message, they're not sending me anything back, it's been this many hours, or the way they sounded in this message. Did they sound kind of angry? Are they not asking me questions anymore? Are they asking me questions? What was the length of their text? Did they fully spell out words? Did they not spell out words? Did they use emojis or not? Did they, send me a black screen in their Snapchat, or did they send me a picture of their face? What does this mean? On and on and on and on and on, trying to figure out every single little thing and assume and figure things out in my head. Trying to know beforehand because I'm so afraid of getting hurt in the end. I'm so afraid of getting rejected, or because I give my all to people. I literally will give my whole heart and my whole love to people. And I am so afraid that if I give my all to someone and they're not someone who can either handle that, or not someone who will give me that back, that I'm just going to be so incredibly hurt. So then I try to protect myself by reading into everything and reading into every little freaking thing someone does, and trying to figure out if there's someone who likes me and someone who will give me this love and energy back before I fully give them myself. And it's so stressful because I'm honestly always anxious and always consumed with these thoughts. I'm I literally just want to do my work. Please let me sit down and do my work. I need to be focused, but I can't focus because I just have all these anxious thoughts running through my head, trying to figure everything out. So, what we can do about this, and what's really hard, is communication. I've been trying to learn and implement healthy communication into my life. I have been for years, and I'm getting a lot better at it, but it is so hard having healthy communication because it requires you to fully understand yourself, fully understand your emotions, and also be able to express those. And I am a person who hates confrontation. I don't like confrontation. I don't like I said, I don't like getting on other people's nerves. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want people to not like me. So I just go with what everyone else does, and I'm just trying to make them happy. So confrontation scares me because I don't want to be opposing to someone. If my thoughts and my feelings are different from someone else's, I don't want to express those because I don't want them to be angry with me or to not like me because of it. So I hold back a lot, but it's so important when you are feeling a certain way and you have certain needs that you express them, or else other people can walk all over you and other people can take advantage of you, and you know what, you're just gonna be left feeling drained and not able to give yourself any love or give yourself any nurture because you're just so drained, and you're compromising yourself, and you're compromising your needs to please other people and to make other people happy. Wow, that's a whole message to myself. I hope that resonates with someone because I was fully to myself. It was probably exactly what I needed to hear. But I hope that applies to somebody else because that's fully a message I needed to hear myself. But honestly, I feel like I compromise myself in my needs just for other people, and that's not okay. It's not okay. So one thing is that I'm gonna do probably after this is write down your non-negotiables. And when I tell you, I thought I had these all figured out, I didn't. But writing down your non-negotiables, so for me that would be they have to be a good communicator, and they have to be able to communicate and express their feelings to me and their needs. It's definitely a non-negotiable for me just because that's something I'm working on and something that is super required for a secure relationship and a healthy relationship. Also, reassurance, lots of reassurance. Because I have an anxious attachment style, I'm afraid of abandonment. I'm afraid of someone giving my all to someone and them just hurting me. So, and not fully. Also, I'm afraid of people faking it, fake liking me. So, reassurance is also a very big thing for me. But I don't know if these are non-negotiables or just the green flags or things that I look for in a person. But I think those are kind of non-negotiables that I want in a relationship. Good communication, constant reassurance, and, well, not constant reassurance, but regular reassurance. And, a non-negotiable for me is also making time for me and giving me physical affection, in the sense of like giving me hugs a lot, or like giving me a hug, or cuddling with me, or giving me kisses like every single day, and or just like holding my hand somewhere, or putting a hand on my lap or something like that, or on my knee or something like that, or giving me a little head scratch, just like some physical affection every single day, in public, in private, both, and being comfortable with both. I'm not that comfortable with PDA fully, but I would love like just slight things, not like full on, like don't kiss me in public, but like hugging and that, like hand on the knee or holding hands, or just like little things like that are great in public. But then also be able to give that to me when you're around your friends, when you're around my friends, when we're in private together. I think those are definitely a part of the non-negotiables. Yeah. For me, those are really big things. And they also align with my love languages. So, yeah. A few things that we can do to be able to actually healthily communicate those non-negotiables and communicate boundaries and just communicate, period, and build that skill is to, first of all, acknowledge your own needs. Acknowledge and understand your own needs, your own emotions, and like kind of identify them yourself before expressing them or speaking them. And I know that is a skill within itself, but if you are feeling hurt because of something someone else did, acknowledging the fact that you're hurt by it, and then expressing that to them, which is scary, I know, but being able to express those feelings and then your needs to them is super important, because the thing is, it's so much more harmful to assume things and just like assume and make conclusions in your own brain rather than communicating things, because you could be hurt by something someone else did, but they don't understand that is harmful to you. They don't understand that that's something that could hurt you. They think it was fine, so they can continue to do it. So if you keep it back and you don't express the fact that hurts you, they can continue to do that and continue to hurt you. And that's not okay for yourself. That's not okay. So by expressing the fact that like, yo, this hurt me, I need more reassurance, I need more kindness or something, whatever it is, expressing that to them, and just, actually asking for things too. Being able to reach out and ask them for help or with something, or asking for them to fulfill a need. That is not selfish of you. Even if it is okay to be selfish sometimes. It is completely good, actually. Expressing those needs and asking them if they can help you to fulfill this need, if they can give you that reassurance, if they can give you more physical affection, or if they can say I love you more, whatever it is, asking for that to make you feel better and more secure within the relationship is so important, because you can just go on the whole time feeling a certain way, or thinking that it's normal, or compromising because you think it's going to affect your relationship in a bad way. But really, you're just making yourself suffer more in the relationship, and it's probably damaging it more because you don't feel secure within it, and it doesn't feel healthy to you because you're hurt because you're not getting those needs fulfilled. Yeah. And like I was saying, definitely ask and clarify things rather than just assuming things right off the bat. I know I'm so guilty for this, and I normally do just assume things, but still, even if you are assuming, still going out and like asking and clarifying things, because it's easy to think that everyone else sees things the way we do, because we're just living in our own heads and whatever. But sometimes when you when you communicate and you talk things through, you realize that people can have other perceptions on certain things. That sounds so obvious, I'm sorry. But you realize that, like, okay, maybe they saw that a different way, and you in your head were like, no, this is the only way it would have been, and you assume, but then really they were thinking about it a different way, or their intentions were different from what you thought they would be. If that makes sense, I hope it does. I'm so vague, but I don't really know. I hope it makes sense. But yeah, just communicating and talking through things rather than just like living in your own head and jumping to conclusions and assuming things. I had friendships before like this where my friend would just automatically assume things, or assume that we were angry and mad at her when really we weren't, and then she would just ignore us because she was assuming that things were wrong and that we were mad, and assuming that like things were off. So she would just completely ignore us and shut us out because she was already assuming those things, when really like nobody ever expressed that anger, nobody ever expressed anything actually. She just like went and assumed that because of one little thing. And so then it like spiraled and happened so much, and just was not healthy, it was not good. So if things like that are happening, you need to communicate and be like, no, this is what happened in my eyes, what happened in your eyes. And that's a whole nother thing, is listening to someone. But you have to practice listening, but attentively listening, and not only that, but also understanding and listening to understand the other person's perspective, and not listening or communicating to argue and prove your point and make yourself seem like you were in the right. You don't always have to be in the right. Like, understand their perspective and understand where they were coming from, and understand the whole situation fully from their perspective. And then, you know what, also own up to things you could have done wrong. Own up to the fact that, okay, maybe you fell short in this area, maybe you could have done this better. But communicating, being honest, understanding them, understanding their needs, but also communicating your needs and how you saw things, and maybe things that you could do better, is so important for healthy communication and developing a secure relationship. And one thing that I want to implement into my future like relationships is having like regular check-ins with each other, because I know it can be hard to have this communication just openly. But if you like implement like, okay, we're gonna have a weekly check-in like every Wednesday or every Sunday, like we can just like sit down on the couch and like ask each other, okay, what did I do this week that you really liked, that made you feel really good, that you didn't communicate about? And then what did I do this week that maybe hurt you a little bit, or that you didn't like, or made you feel a little bit off, or a little bit uneasy? And then what can I do better next week to show you love or love you better? And just having that time, and having like that built-in time and questions to ask each other is super helpful to having that communication as well, because maybe something happened that's kind of small that did make me feel a certain way, but I kind of just pushed it off and was like, whatever. Or maybe they did something that I really did like, but I didn't express that, because you're not always going to express these things. You're not always every single little thing gonna express like, oh, thank you, that made me feel great, or actually that made me feel like shit. I mean, if it's huge, definitely do it, but I think it's not gonna happen every single time. So having this scheduled time and having this specific time to express maybe things you didn't express can be super, super helpful to building that healthy, confident relationship where you can like have that reassurance, and also build and grow and become closer and become more secure and confident within your relationship. Wow, I'm not even in a relationship and I'm giving relationship advice. Take it if you will, leave it if you will. I don't know. I'm just a psychology student, so you can take what you want, leave what you want. I don't know. This is just my own advice, my own little things that I've learned through my own experiences, through other people's experiences, through schooling and everything. It's just stuff that I've picked up here and there. I hope some of it resonated with you guys though, and I really hope it helped somewhat. Yeah. This was so spur of the moment of me. I had such a busy, productive day today, and I loved it. I didn't even have an episode planned out. I was just gonna go with the flow, and I mean, here we are. Love it. Okay. Thank you all so much for listening, and I'm also so happy that you are all here with me today, living, breathing, enjoying this lovely planet of ours. I hope to see you all next week. Okay, bye. Yeah.